Are you ready to transform your summer into an epic splash-tastic adventure? Say goodbye to wasteful, single-use water balloons and hello to the ultimate in reusable, eco-friendly fun with reusable water balloons. Check out the link in the video description to get yours on Amazon today.
The nationalization of ScotRail back on April Fool's Day in 2022 was hailed by Nicola Sturgeon as a historic and momentous occasion. Piling on the rhetoric, she said it was a real opportunity to deliver a railway which is for the nation, and fully focused on being run for the benefit of its users. That was a combination of wishful thinking and baseless assertion, and within weeks the grandiose soundbites had unraveled in spectacular style. A perfect storm developed as union barons commanded their well-paid drivers on average salaries of around £52,000 a year not to work on rest days, sparking a drastic reduction in timetables. That dispute was eventually resolved, but now history is repeating itself with the rail operator slashing 600 services, ironically in a bid to preserve certainty and reliability, after 4 unions rejected a pay offer. The certainty, of course, was that passengers would continue to get a raw deal, including SNP concertgoers in Glasgow who were left high and dry after the final performance at the weekend. ScotRail bosses warned fans heading to the venue at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday that they would be operating on an emergency plan and that timetables would be limited in the evening. Later that statement was retracted, and they announced that services would be terminated before the finish of Calvin Harris's headlining set. Fans were urged to consider travel arrangements, though many of them had already considered them prior to the event and had been planning to take the train. The net result was that thousands of those attending, many of them teenagers, faced the prospect of being stranded with no easy or safe means of getting home. ScotRail churned out the usual apologies, but they were scant consolation to anxious, angry parents who were deployed at the last minute to pick up their kids from Glasgow city centre. Those whose cars fall foul of the low emission zone, LEZ, wouldn't have had that option unless they wanted to incur a hefty fine. Dire predictions that nationalised ScotRail would turn into Calmac on wheels have been proved right, time and time again. And the SNP debacle is just the latest example of its unerring knack of getting it badly wrong and leaving passengers to pick up the pieces. Miss Sturgeon had said back in 2022 that the nationalists were making public transport a more attractive option, especially for Scotland's younger generations, something SNP fans might find hard to swallow. Unhappily for John Swinney and his Transport Secretary Fiona Hislop, there are no private firms to blame for the disruption, as government takeover means the responsibility lies squarely with the SNP. Many long-suffering commuters may be feeling nostalgic for the days when the railway was run by Dutch firm Abellio, which was stripped of its £7 billion contract in December 2019 after years of appalling performance. A lot of them have switched to the bus or the car, assuming it's LEZ compliant. And anyone working night shifts or on Sundays knows that even when the system is functioning broadly as designed, the service is patchy, poor, or non-existent. There's little doubt that from the start rail union bosses saw the new left-wing political masters of the railway, nationalists who were then in partnership with the anti-capitalist Green Party, as a soft touch unlikely to take a strong stand against industrial unrest. Train drivers union SLEF informed ScotRail earlier this month that it was considering a ballot for industrial action over pay, while Unite, RMT and TSSA also rejected a wage increase. In the meantime, many drivers have refused to work extra Sunday shifts and overtime, heaping extra pressure on a network that was already struggling to cope. Yet a ScotRail train driver was paid an astonishing £103,000 last year, becoming the first to earn a 6-figure sum following nationalisation. That makes it harder to stomach rail fares shooting up in April by 8.7% across the board, following an increase of 4.8% last year. Union chiefs may be holding the SNP to ransom, but passengers don't care about the ideology of nationalisation, or who runs the railway. They just want to arrive at work on time, or get home in the evening, preferably seated, though most of us gave up on such luxuries long ago. Wi-Fi is advertised but rarely if ever works. How difficult would it be to fix it? Imedia.